I grew up with Monster High when I was a kid. I still have the Generation 1 dolls that I played with when I was little. I would watch the web series all the time and get my parents to buy the movies on DVD. Generation 3 came out within the last year, and I really like the new take on the old characters, but the characters are not really the same. I wanted to redesign the characters to more fit my taste and bring back more of the old Monster High. Warning, don't diss Generation 3 in my comments, as this video and any future videos on this topic are not meant to attack the new Monster High. This is just my reimagining of the characters. Also, I lost the footage of Draculaura's speed paint as my system died while saving the footage. Draculaura would be 21 in my story. At least, if she was a human, she'd be 21. She's in her later years of college. She's going for a fashion degree, as she wants to be in a fashion-focused career with her best friend, Clawdeen. I didn't change much from Draculaura's new Generation 3 design, as I personally really like the new design. The vibes that the new design gave off made me feel happy. I did want to bring back a bit more of Generation 1's design though. I added purple to the design, as Generation 1 has purple in her design, but Generation 3 barely has any and doesn't even have purple eyes. She has pink eyes with slight purple accents. I also really liked the fishnets in Generation 1's design, but I personally didn't like how they just went down to her knees, so I had them go all the way down to her feet. The hat that Generation 3 has in the show looks really cute, so I kept that in my design. I also really liked the fact that they made her part witch, so the hat makes sense, as I wanted to keep that in her story. I really liked what Generation 3 did with Draculaura's ears and how they made them stick out instead of laying flat against her head. It makes it more noticeable that she has pointed ears and is a bit different. I also really love the split dye that she has in Generation 3, so I didn't want to change that. Now the story that I want to tell with the new designs involves everyone being older and in college. Some would be in the later years of college, while others would just be starting their first years. Like the younger characters, like Howleen and Twyla, would be freshmen. Dracula would be her adopted father from Romania. Draculaura's biological parents were Chinese and were visiting her biofather's best friend Dracula when the father caught the plague and died. Draculaura's mother had just found out she was pregnant before the father passed. Dracula took in the pregnant woman and cared for her until the day she would pass on. Dracula and her had formed a relationship when Draculaura turned 4. They had bonded over a shared loved one passing away. Years later, when Draculaura was 18 years old, Draculaura's mother became sick, and nothing could be done to save her, as the world was still in bad shape. The two hadn't married, as Draculaura's mother didn't want to remarry anyone, as it would feel like an erasure of her husband. Dracula was already Draculaura's father and had went through the process of being named her father. Draculaura's mother passes on peacefully, knowing that her daughter is in good hands and will be safe. Dracula did offer to turn her, but she rejected the offer. About a year later, Draculaura falls sick with the same sickness and is dying. Dracula tries his best and gets her the best doctors possible, but they can't do anything. On her last month alive, Dracula gives her the same offer that he gave her mother. This time, though, Draculaura agrees and wants to be turned. I really wanted to keep aspects of the original backstory for Draculaura, as I loved how dark it was. The fact that she was a vegetarian vampire in the original story was something that I really like and want to keep as part of her character. A vegetarian vampire is something that a lot of media do, but it was part of her character and was more so used to show how she cared about people and the environment, rather than just being something like the Twilight vampires. In my story, Draculara is spoiled. Dracula has a lot of money from his thousands of years of living. He also has no other children, so all of his familial love would go towards his daughter. Dracula would buy her anything she wanted or asked for. This doesn't affect how kind she is, as she has seen how cruel the world is within her first few years of life. She uses the fact that she is spoiled to do things for others and tries to leave everywhere she goes better than she found it. Valentine and Elizabeth will have their own videos of me redesigning them, and their relationship with Draculara will be talked about in those videos. Draculara's sexuality is pansexual. She is attracted to everyone. Draculara and Claude are together and are engaged. They have been together since high school. Draculara has always been open about her sexuality, as she has had years to figure out how she feels about others. Clawdeen is Draculara's best friend. Clawdeen had a crush on Draculara in high school but never acted on it, as she's seen how her brother was smitten with Draculara and didn't want to ruin his happiness. Draculara's relationships that she had in high school are still strong. Her friend group involving Clawdeen, Frankie, Laguna, Cleo, and Gulia is still together, and they hang out almost every day. They each have their other relationships, but they are still the main friend group and always make time for each other. I don't really like Clawdeen's Generation 3 design. There are plenty of things that I don't like. For example, the dog nose that they put onto her design. They also made her act nothing like her old character. They made her act closer to the old Frankie rather than Clawdeen. In the new show, she is supposed to be the new person in school instead of Frankie. It's nice to have someone else as the new main character, but they made her act a lot like the old Frankie, who was the main character. There are things that I like about the new Clawdeen. I like how they made her family Mexican. The exploration of a different family dynamic other than the basic white family is extremely refreshing to see. The strange relationship with her mom is something that I don't really have any feelings on, as we haven't really physically met her mom. I do like how the show has us seeing more of people's parents rather than almost never even talking about the parents. The relationship between Clawdeen and her dad is also something that I like, as it shows a complicated relationship. There are plenty of people in the real world who are close to their loved ones, but are scared to talk to them about some things. I wanted Clawdeen to have no pink in her design, as Draculara is basically made of pink. The two would be together a lot in my story, so I wanted them to not overpower each other, so I made Clawdeen's purple darker and Draculara's purple lighter. In my story, Clawdeen is in college with Draculara. They are in the same major and share almost all of their classes. They are extremely close, as someday Draculara will marry into Clawdeen's family. Clawdeen is already married. She married a mummy who has already graduated college and has a full-on career. She isn't royalty like Cleo, and she doesn't have a good relationship with her family. She has went no contact with her entire family and doesn't really talk about them. The two of them also have a werewolf infant together through surrogacy. Clawdeen is close to her family, and they are able to work and go to school, while the baby is watched by the grandparents for a few hours. Clawdeen shapes her school schedule so that she spends as much time as possible with the infant. Clawdeen is from a big family. Her 3 siblings will all have their own redesigns and story branches. Claude, Howleen, and Claudia are all involved in Clawdeen and her baby's life. Claudia is still a reporter and a journalist. She's Clawdeen's older sister. She travels around the world looking for stories to report on. Howleen is a freshman in college. She's the youngest of the siblings. Howleen and Twyla are a new couple. and they just started dating at the end of their senior semester. Clawdeen's mom in my story isn't missing and is highly involved in Clawdeen's life as she watches the new addition to the family. She is very supportive of Clawdeen. Clawdeen's sexuality is that she is a lesbian. Both of Clawdeen's parents love and support her. They are also supportive of Clawdeen's wife and are like the family she never had. Clawdeen's dad in my story would be a lot like her dad in the Generation 3 show, as I love his character. He's a human while his wife is a werewolf. He has tons of connections to the monster world and knows a lot of people like Headmistress Bloodgood. He had all those connections before he met his wife and has also been connected to the monster world, even though he is a human. His connections are how he met Clawdeen's mom. The monster world doesn't treat him like an outsider like it would any other human. Instead, it sees him as a monster. That's it for this redesign. I hope you all liked it. If you made it to the end of this video, drop a like and maybe consider subscribing. Comment what you would like to see more of. Give me suggestions. Thank you all. I'll hopefully see you in the next one.